Welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. We're back at the podcast studio inside the Advantage Center at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, who helped Alabama to that win against Mercer. A lot of great experience for Ty in your Alabama career. Just roll Tide. How's everything going?
Yeah, it's been great. How are you doing?
Doing very well. And again, it was a fun Saturday against Mercer as we saw Alabama pick up the win. We got to see you with some extended playing time. What'd that mean to you?
It meant a lot, especially since last year. I got a couple chances, and I feel like I'm a different player. I feel like I'm growing a lot more, and so being able to kind of take those 2 drives and just kind of play free and just play ball. It felt really good. It felt like I was back in high school. Got a lot of confidence back underneath me, and I'm just excited to get more chances.
It was a fun day to see really everybody in the quarterback room get an
Yeah,
opportunity.
no
Jalen, then you, Dylan Lonergan. We talked to Austin Mack about his touchdown pass, and then even for a guy like Cade Carruth, how meaningful is it to see him on that field?
Yeah, we're a tight knit group. The quarterback room, we always help each other out. And the crazy part is, everybody else only one can play. So, Jalen does a good job representing all of us. But getting to see just everybody have shared success in that room and getting a chance to partake in a win, especially guys like Carruth, who, may not do a lot for us in practice, but he signals and gets us to play and gets that's a lifelong dream of his to be able to play in a real game in Bryant-Denny Stadium for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And it was just really cool to see the growth of everybody, like Austin and Dylan getting in there, and then me. It really was a heartfelt moment for all of us. We got a picture after the game, so it was great experience.
That's really cool to see. And for this football team, only a handful of games left this year. Just from your perspective, how have you seen this team grow throughout the year?
Yeah, we started off hot, of course, with a big Georgia win, and I think kind of towards the middle of the season, we kind of hit a hump. We kind of got humbled a little bit, like, hey, this isn't, just because we beat this team doesn't mean that we're, some just joker night, I guess you can say. We're vulnerable in some spots, and we learned that, and that's why, as Coach DeBoer says, always go 1-0. So after that Vanderbilt week, we kind of went 1-0. We got back on track. And the Tennessee week, of course, everybody knows we didn't play our best, but it's about bouncing back each and every week and not looking towards the future. So when we went to Baton Rouge and we played well and we dominated the line of scrimmage and every aspect of the game, we just got to bounce off that. We came to Mercer. We got the job done. Now we're not focused on Auburn. We're not focused on what seed we're going to be in the playoff. We're focused on Oklahoma, going in there at 6:30 at night in Norman and taking care of business.
We're certainly looking forward to that. And for you, with more experience in your career now, do you feel like one of the leaders of this team?
Yeah, certainly, especially since coming back. In this day and age, a lot of people would have probably left, especially with the circumstances that I had. But being here when Coach left and being here for 3 years, in my class, you got guys like Tyler Booker, Jahad Campbell, Kendrick Law, Jamarian Miller, guys like that who are big time playmakers for us and who are vocal leaders in the locker room. And me being a quarterback and an older guy as well, like my voice is just as much important as theirs and just as heard as much as theirs. So, I think it's a job of mine, even though I don't play, to make sure that these guys know the standard and know how we do things around here.
Let's go back to your recruitment. And first of all, just growing up, you grew up really in a football household. Did you always have a football in your hand growing up?
Yeah, no doubt. So for people who don't know, my dad's a head college football coach at the University of Tennessee Martin. He's been there for 19 years. He'll be going on 20. So basically, Martin, Tennessee has been all I known. He went to Mississippi State. He's from Mississippi and then transferred to Southern Miss to play baseball. So I've always kind of loved the SEC, more of the Ole Misses and the Mississippi States, but my mom's a big Tennessee fan. So I kind of was in a house divided. Didn't have any clue, that I would be going to Alabama. But as the recruiting process went, it was always down to Alabama, Clemson, and Tennessee. Those were the 3 that always stood out. Just because one, Alabama, the standard that it had up, of course, Coach Saban was there. Clemson, it had its perks with, Dabo and kind of the family name. And then Tennessee, being from Tennessee, trying to go back there and kind of build up their program. And of course, all my friends are Tennessee fans. So it was a hard decision, but at the end of the day, it felt like home here in Tuscaloosa, and I wouldn't change my journey for the world. So
we always hear stories, but how good of a recruiter is Coach Saban?
he he'll tell you he doesn't like recruiting, but he definitely does. He's great. He just kind of tells you how it is. One thing that I really enjoyed was, NIL was kind of just getting started when I was getting recruited, and we would talk about that and talk about, well, coach, if I stayed in Tennessee, I think my NIL value would be more being an in-state guy. And he just kind of told me, he was like, I get that, but you look at our guys who have come here, they make their money on the back end. You may get your money up front now, but guys who, you think about Tua, you think about Jared Allen, Devontae Smith, guys like that who are going to make their money on their max contracts after their first year in the NFL. Like, that's where, he kind of sold me on it. And, I couldn't disagree with facts, you know what I mean? So just being able to spit those statements and seeing what he had to say about that and just being very genuine was cool. And it was hard to say no.
And going back to your dad for a minute, you mentioned a longtime head coach at UT Martin. What did you enjoy most about getting to grow up around that program? Was it some of the meetings, some of the road trips around the ball games, being on the sideline, things like that?
Yeah, all of it, man. Seriously, the road trips were fun. I remember, going to Neyland Stadium and walking over and meeting Peyton Manning and talking to him. Talking to him. I was, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 years old. That was cool. Going to his meetings and kind of, as I grew older, I knew what he was talking about and I could follow up now instead of just sitting there and just enjoying to be there. Going to practices and seeing how it worked. I look back on it now, I was like, man, I had no clue what was going on when I was a middle school, elementary school kid. But now seeing there, it's like, man, like it's nothing has changed from, whether it's an Alabama practice or UT Martin practice. Like, Alabama practice just has a bunch of people and a lot of facilities. They're UT Martin, and we got the rodeo arena and just a couple of restaurants on the side of it. But man, I really enjoyed being around the football program there at UT Martin, and I'm very fortunate that I had a father and that support system there in Martin to let me be able to do that.
And obviously, he's keeping up with his own team, coaching them. He can't, check in on every single practice or see everything that's going on. But how good of a sounding board is he through the ups and downs of the season?
Oh, he's great. I talk to him every day. Especially we kind of bounce ideas back and forth of, who's playing this week and who I'm playing this week, and we talk about what they do and if he's faced a team like that or if I've faced a team like that, and we just kind of just talk ideas. And he's as smart as a coach as I know, especially being around him so much. I fully believe that he could coach in the SEC or anywhere. So being able to just talk ideas and ask him, like, man, like, I don't know, how I'm going to be able to see this in a game. How do you see it? And he'll give me tips and stuff like that. And he's a great, just resource to use.
Again, you make the decision to join Alabama, and the first quarterback you got to be around as a starter was Bryce Young. What'd you pick up the most from Bryce?
Bryce was awesome. I can't say enough good things about Bryce, especially me being there as a freshman and kind of not understanding, what the standard is here at Alabama, and kind of just getting my feet wet and understanding, what is supposed to be, coming out of the quarterback room. The biggest thing that I learned from him probably is just, how cool and calm and collective he was. Bryce never got mad. He would always, it was always his fault. He would always take matters into his own hands because he fully believed that, the quarterback position is what makes everybody else go. And that's something that I learned through him, just because, man, like, he didn't, get on anybody unless he had to. He didn't, pitch a fit or anything like that. He was Bryce. Everything was steady Eddie. And he was a great person to be around, and people attracted to Bryce, and people wanted to play harder because of Bryce. And that's one thing that I really took from Bryce, and I still talk to him to this day about just thanking him and just telling him how much I appreciate what he's done for me. And he probably doesn't even realize how much he's done for me, but just being around him for a year was awesome. I couldn't thank him enough.
Then going into 2023, a lot of questions about who would be the quarterback. What do you remember about fall camp and the competition you had with Jalen Milroe, Tyler Buckner as well? I imagine you guys still kept a good friendship, but I mean, that competition, that had to be stressful at times.
Oh yeah, it certainly was. Look back on it now. I certainly wish I could do a lot of different things back then, but I also think that I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't go through those trials and tribulations. It was different for sure, especially the three quarterback rotation that we had. Not many people in the country did that. I would think, but being in there in that room with Tommy Reese and Derek Dooley. And then those players in general just kind of could see, the difference in the differences that we played with. Jalen and his athletic ability. Tyler Buckner is probably one of the smartest players I've been around just from a football standpoint. And we just kind of, all grew off each other just on how they read things and how they played the game a different way. And I think that it certainly helped me just kind of being a younger guy and not, having a lot of pressure on myself just to do things the right way, and looking at those guys and they just play free. And, I think it certainly has helped me and certainly has helped me grow to where I am today.
You talked a minute ago about Bryce Young staying calm no matter what was happening in a ball game, and I imagine for you that had to help in the South Florida game. Tyler gets to start, you come in, you have the lightning delay, just not much is going right. How did you stay calm and lead Alabama to a very important win?
Yeah, I mean it was hard. I tell you what, I probably wasn't ready as much as I wanted to be. I guess you could say. It kind of caught me off guard. And that's one thing that said earlier is I kind of grew from it, and I was immature back then. I kind of was, more worried about, how people saw me and how, how the game should, how I wanted to play the game instead of how I should play the game. I should have just relaxed and played free and, not cared about, who cares about what other people think. I should have just taken what they give me. I should have just played the game how it was supposed to be played and not tried to make a big statement on, who should have been starter at the beginning of the year or who should have been the starter now. You know what I mean? So just being able to just grow from that and look back on it and just be like, man, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I failed. I'm glad I didn't play to where I wanted to play so I can be able to grow and understand that, that's water under the bridge. Look where you were then to where you are now.
And look what happened with the team. I mean, now with a year of perspective, if Alabama loses that game, even with the win against Georgia in the championship, not going to the playoff. Do you have a lot of pride looking back and, you were able to lead that scoring drive we needed late in the ballgame that put it away?
Oh, certainly. And, I talked to guys who were on that team last year and were in that game, and I tell them, man, it was the most fun I've had in a while. Just playing the game and just getting the team to a win. Now, granted, probably wasn't the best game that we've played, but just being able to be out there with those guys was great, and they really appreciate it too. But Jalen's was a great player or is a great player, and certainly gave us a lot of boost in that offense. And so he coach made the decision for the team, and I respected it, and I just it's not fair to other guys like Tyler Booker or Malachi Moore, Deontay Lawson, who give their all each and every day for this team. For a guy who may not have the biggest role but has a role like myself, and just give up on the team. When my number was called, whether if it was the Ole Miss game after when I got the 2-point conversion, if I was complaining and being upset because I didn't get to start that game, that may have been a big difference in the game. And so I look at those guys and I think, man, no matter what my role is, I want to play for people like that.
Yeah, that Ole Miss game is a perfect example of being ready when your number's called, because Jalen's helmet flies off, so he can't play that next play. Is that just an example of how ready you stay for any moment, even now?
Yeah, certainly. And I think too, as you go through each and every game, you learn and learn and learn. It could be one play and it could change your whole career. I think about, the Florida State team last year. Jordan Travis goes down. They go through 2 different backups just trying to be able to bypass games, and I talk to, Coach DeBoer and these guys all the time. And, my job is for the offense not to skip a beat. when, in case something happens to Jalen. And I go, whether it's, in practice or in the warm-ups or anything like that, knowing that the guys have confidence in me that, okay, Jalen is out, we're going to go down and win the game no matter what, even if ties in. So that's my job as the backup quarterback. And, hopefully next year that'll be my job to, be the guy and know that, next guy is ready.
And for you, we've seen you, of course, throw well in ball games, but late last year we got to see you run pretty well as well. Wasn't it the Chattanooga game? How long was that run you had?
Well, I don't know how long it was, but it certainly didn't count enough
right.
to where I wanted it to with the drop ball. So.
But I mean, again, showed impressive athletic ability. What I know it was a frustrating ending with the way the ball dropped, but I mean, still showing your elusiveness and showing that if you are called upon as a quarterback runner, you're pretty effective. That's got to be good.
Yeah, and I think I probably need to sometimes use it more, especially during practice. I think my best ability is to pass, especially within the pocket. But I think the best guys you look at, in the league, you're like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, guys who make plays out of the pocket or what makes them so special. But yeah, last year, I guess it would have been the 1 year anniversary last Saturday. It would have been nice to hold on to the ball, but like I said, it's a learning moment. I promise you, it won't ever happen again.
Hey, thanks, Abby. You did a lot of good things leading up to that. You mentioned talking with Coach DeBoer and the transition from Coach DeBoer, or from Coach Saban to Coach DeBoer. When you started to learn about the offense, what did you like about it? What these guys do?
Yeah, I mean, of course, who as a quarterback, who doesn't like throwing the ball down the field? You look at the Michael Penix and the Washington guys last year, man, they're throwing it, 30, 45 times a game. Like that made me happy for sure. But I think the biggest thing that I really enjoyed is just, how much they just want you to play. I felt like, during my first couple of years, I felt not robotic, but I almost felt like that, I didn't play as free because I wanted to do things the exact way, where at the end of the day, it's always, it's a game. Just because they're playing this coverage doesn't mean that the ball has to go here. Something could happen. And I think that's what they've really kind of emphasized and kind of told me. It's just, man, like, just play. Like, who cares about what happens? Like, just imagine you're back in high school, and they're going to be better players, so you're not going to get away with everything, but just play. Like, this is, a kid's game that you are, here to do and just have fun, and this is the rules within the system and the offense. And I think through the spring, that's what I kind of had to, kind of really learn and emphasize. Just, man, like, just play. Like, the pocket collapse, like, go make a play. It doesn't matter, if it's on, one hitch or two hitch. Just enjoy and play ball. And I think, looking back and going through the spring and talking to Coach DeBoer, and even now, is what, something that he's really emphasizing to everybody, because we don't, during practice, we take so many team reps. And, my dad always asked me, just as a coach, like, what, why are you taking, however many team reps? Like, y'all don't do, individual and stuff. He's like, Coach, I just want these guys to get team reps in a game-like situations. Like, that's what, we're going to do on Saturday. We're not going to do 7-on-7. We're not going to do quarterback indie and stuff like that. We'll still do that, but that's not what it's going to be like in a game. We're going to be 11-on-11, and I think that's what's been really cool about it.
And whether it's been in practices or even the games you've played in, I mean, you got to be impressed with the depth that Alabama has at wide receiver, because I think we see Jalen with some of the frontline starters, things like that, but even Rico Scott catches a touchdown pass in this last ball game. I mean, there's just talent all over the place with that group, and the tight ends too.
Oh, absolutely, and give credit, to those guys, but also, the Coach Shepard and Coach Brian Ellis. They do a great job every single day of getting the best out of those guys and really staying on them just about the details. But I can't say enough great things about those guys and how hard they work. They run and do literally everything. You look at the wideout group, literally all day during practices they run and catch. Like, that's what they do, and they block when it's a running play. You look at the tight ends; they're asked to do what O-lineman, the left tackle, will do, but they also are asked to do what a wide receiver can do. That's a big difference. So guys like C.J. Dupree, Josh Cuevas, Robert or not Robert,
Robbie Oots,
Robbie
yeah.
Oots, and even the young guys like Ty Lockwood, Danny Lewis, and Jay Lindsey. Man, I can't say enough great things about those guys, and I just really appreciate everything that they do for the team.
Well, as you mentioned, getting ready for next year, obviously your focus is going to be on what you can do to help this football team win, and then hopefully a good career in the NFL after that. But with growing up the son of a coach, being around the game as long as you have, could coaching be in your future one day?
Oh, absolutely. I think that is what I want to do. I told Coach DeBoer on his first meeting, I was like, you are the successor of Coach Saban. Now I want to be the successor of you. When you retire here and you have a great career like Coach Saban had, I want to be done with my NFL career and take your job. And he started laughing. He was like, well, we'll try to make that happen. But yeah, I love coaching. I would love to be coaching with my dad one day. But I love ball. I'm a ball kid. So.
I would look forward to seeing you playing more for Alabama. And just final question, how much have you enjoyed just this experience, getting to be an Alabama football player?
It's a great experience. It may have not been how I drew it up, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love the people. I love this town. I love this campus. There's not a better feeling than being an Alabama football player and playing in Bryant-Denny with that scripted A on it. Just the standard that you uphold, the pressure that you're being put on is a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Fans been pretty good to you? When you see them in person, I mean, it's got to be a lot of praise.
No, they're great, and I really appreciate everything that they do.
Well, we appreciate the hard work you're putting in for the Crimson Tide this year. Ty Simpson, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck the rest of the way. Roll Tide.
Appreciate you guys. Roll Tide.